Welcome.
Hey, here we are.
Hello.
I love it.
Welcome, everybody, to Thanks for Nothing, a show about nothing and everything and something all at once.
And being thankful for it.
And being appreciative.
Yep.
And thankful.
Appreciative, thankful. All the words. We're going to use just a warning, we're going to use all the words today.
We just talked previously about not being so wordy, but now we're going to use them all. You never know what happens moment to moment.
Yes, get them all out.
If you're watching live with us, let us know where you're watching from, and would love to know if you're streaming in from LinkedIn, or you're in my Facebook group, The Joy Spot, or you're on YouTube. Wherever you are, let us know so we can make sure to give you some love.
And if they're on one of the places that I shared too, because I shared.
Yes. Share your name your pages.
My pages. The Invincible CEO.
I mean, where you shared it.
The Invincible CEO. I shared it on my profile, and I also shared it on my Denise Pavernick, the CEO Secret Weapon page. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so wherever you're streaming from, let us know. So today,
I'm very nosy. We're nosy like that.
Hello, David. What is up? David from Colorado Springs. He was my TEDx coach for my first TEDx talk.
I love the last name. I love the last name.
Yes, you actually would love him. That's a great connection, the two of you. So
hello, David.
Hello, that out there.
Hello.
So today's an exciting day for several reasons. First, Denise is going to be sharing something really special coming up tomorrow and the next day that we preempted, actually let's use preempted, last week. I'm being wordy right now, just so you know.
I have to look up words now. Thanks for nothing. Now I have to look up words.
Thanks for nothing. Hello, Cody in San Diego. Good to see you. We, of course, have my daddy from T-Town, Tuscaloosa Town.
All righty. Hello, Robert. Cody, how are you? Welcome.
He's the only one in Tuscaloosa who's like a New York Yankee. He's like 6'4", and he just stands out. He's like, hello. And he's, it's just everybody in T-Town knows him.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So today, just to let you know before we dive in, so
it's almost Leo season. It's almost Leo. Sorry. Control. I promise myself.
I was like, you're not going to let me get anything out, are you?
I'll go.
I just want to get people to stay here with us. So if this is you, if you are somebody who repeatedly shares and tells the same stories that maybe don't feel good, but you tell them again and again and again, maybe stories that I always struggle, or I always meet the wrong person, or it's always so hard to lose weight, or whatever those things are that you believe, we're going to dive into that today. And by the end of our show, Denise, I know she's already shaking her head. She needs to say something.
You'll never, ever, ever want to tell those stories again. You'll delete them from your operating system, because they're gatekeepers. They're gatekeepers of lower levels, and they don't have your outcome on them, because if they did, you'd be in your outcome.
We'll get into all of that. We'll get into all of that in just a minute. If this is you, I just want you to share, say yes in the comments if you are ready to rewrite your story. If you're done telling the same character, being the same character, attracting the characters, because at the end of the day, Denise will share, and I'm sure today, that you're writing the lines of it and you are creating the scenes, and you have all of your co-stars and everybody, but we're going to dive into that. I just want to know if you are ready to rewrite your story. Say yes in the comments.
But do not rewrite the story. We don't care what the old story is. And you got to care not to tell it ever again or have anyone ever hear it again. So do not write the old story. La, 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 la. Can't hear you.
Everybody. Well, okay, so if you
of course, I couldn't figure out what this one was. I could figure out this one. I could figure out this one, but I could. Okay.
If you are never going to share that same story again, if you don't even remember what that story is anymore, say yes. I don't know. I'm just asking them. I know you don't know a story.
I don't know. I know nothing.
I'm just going to let Denise go because she can't hold herself still. And
I'll be good. I promise. Well, I'll be on my next to best behavior. How about that? I can't give best behavior, but I'll give the next to best behavior. How about that? Go ahead.
If you're all wondering, I mean, she's usually jumping out of her seat anyway, but it is almost Leo season. And it's almost my birthday first, just so you know, next Wednesday.
Yes. And how about this? We will be on your birthday next week.
Oh, we will be on my
We
birthday.
will
Oh,
be. So we know what the
yeah.
theme of that show is.
The theme of every show,
Hey, it's
Shari.
all Shari. Woo! Yes. Yes. Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Look how big that smile got. We're all gonna sing happy birthday to you. We're gonna bring everybody on screen.
just so you know, if anyone has paid attention, last week we talked about the foundational assumptions, and one of those was I am the star of my own what life story
Reality, universe, story.
reality. Your
Yeah.
foundational assumption, I took it on, and
Yeah.
so I said yes to
Yeah.
it. I had no resistance.
All right. Get ready to rumble. Come on, put up the dukes. Whose story is
So,
it anyway? Extra points for that. I get extra points.
exactly. So let's dive into that today for those who are watching. I know you are jumping out. Why don't you just get this out of the way? Like, why don't you share why, besides the fact that it's Leo season? And by me getting out of the way, I mean so we can there's something coming up tomorrow and Friday, and today is actually going to do something about it. I can't think of words because I'm not being wordy. Just share.
Said the girl who said all the words prior to here, but okay.
I ran out of them. I ran out of words for now. It's your turn.
Okay, we'll charge you back up. We'll charge you back up. So tomorrow, I do have to give a shout out. My youngest of 5, it's his birthday tomorrow. He's an almost Leo. We love him. We absolutely love him. We're gonna actually celebrate his birthday on Sunday with the fam. He will be 17, so that's my youngest. So Emmett, woohoo. Yeah. All right. So and tomorrow and Friday, and we're starting at 9 a.m. PST Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then all the other times in between. We are doing 3 sessions, and the 4th session is a Q&A session. So we're going to go every hour for an hour and then take an hour in break in between so it can be acclimated. And then the last session is some clarity for the day. So we're going to be doing this for 2 days. It's called the Quantum Revelation Thingy, because we are so serious. The only thing we're ever serious about is we don't take ourselves seriously.
I love it.
And this,
as you can tell, you might be able to tell.
so because,
Sorry, I'm just want to say hello to a couple people that just popped
back.
in.
Hello from Madrid. That's beautiful. Shari,
And
I know
okay.
Facebook user, the anonymous Facebook user. Who said that? Who
you.
are you? Reveal yourself.
Reveal yourself.
So because I sit in my story, I'd like to hear from your point of view what you think this is going to be. Besides a lot of fun, of course, but of course.
You're talking about me?
So, yeah. Well,
really, I got thrown on the hot seat.
You thought you were going to get out of it?
Yeah, but I was like, today there is no hot seat. Thank God. So what do I think the next 2 days is going to be? I mean, I think the next 2 days is really going to be about diving into how to create our reality, which is literally the tagline of it, is to really step into, I don't know, when I feel the energy of you and just being around you is all about recreating every single moment in the now, to let go of all of the stories, they never existed, to be fully connected to your body, to your feels, and to follow what that is to feel good. And those 2 days feel like you're going to share with us all of the ways to be able to do that, to what to release and let go of. You asked, there's some words.
Yeah. So once upon a time, right? And hey, that was, of course that was. I knew it. I can get people to confess. I can get people to confess very, very easily. So once upon a time, and what I would say to everybody is that I'm not going to teach you anything that you're not already doing, because most people are creating unconsciously, right? They've been conditioned, they've been told what life is, and they're banging around trying to figure out what that is, right? So what happens is when you truly wake up, you stop making memes, you stop making videos and just throwing out positive affirmations and tenets. And this is, live life to the fullest. Well, you can say that a whole lot, but what's the experience? Because the now moment is all about the experience, not some bunch of words that you string together that sound wonderful. There's one thing, and imagination's wonderful, that you can imagine eating a piece of pizza and the body's going to react like you are. And that's wonderful because it proves that the subconscious mind doesn't need the real thing to be happening. But there's nothing like actually having that piece of pizza.
Right.
So when you're spewing a lot of memes and videos and talking and talking and talking, it's wonderful because it's an imaginal act, but people want the real manifestations. And they get frustrated or disheartened in a way because they do all of the things that all the teachers are telling them to do, but they're not getting anywhere because
Right.
it's surface level bullshit. So what we're going to do, and I always say this, that when you wrap a present, the paper doesn't necessarily match what's inside because you can wrap a box of shit and have really pretty wrapping paper.
Spray some perfume on it, and it's like, "Ooh, the
Exactly.
outside smells
Right?
good."
So this is about ripping off the pretty wrapping paper. This is about getting rid of all of the nonsense.
Right.
Put down the books, put down the videos, put down the courses, and let's get real right here, right now, so that you have the experience of it, so that you'll never have to ask again, what am I supposed to do? What's my next step?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
exciting.
it's,
I'm looking so
yeah.
forward to it.
That what
Yeah.
we're just like here, like every week we come and we laugh and we have fun. And that's already in my story. That's already now in your story. There's
Mhm.
no scripts. We have some ideas of what we're going to bounce around, but it's not until you get going right here, right now, does it take a life on its own. And what gets said and what gets interacted with and what gets felt is exactly what's needed.
Yeah. And that's been the difference over the last couple of months of really spending a lot of time with you is I've been much more, and I'll just give you the credit for it, even though I really want to take credit as a Leo, but
You have to
no,
take
well,
credit
I
for
created
it.
you. Yeah, just being much more in my feels, like, I,
Yeah.
and really, yeah, and not so much the planning and the all of that. And it's been not just fun, but freeing and
Yeah.
well, just fun. I want to say fun again.
And we all have wishes and we all have desires. And I just
Mhm.
posted a post in the Invincible CEO Circle that said there's a huge difference from thinking of your desire and thinking from your desire, because
Yeah.
from is experiencing it before it's actually here. And that's what,
Mm.
so when you think this is all imagination, we're imagining right now, you just been taught this is real life, but this is imagination. This is a deliberate act of imagination.
And
And wow,
that's
what an amazing imagination you have. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just linking that back to stories and the topic today. And when you
Yeah.
talk about, the imaginal act, the once upon a time, everything that everyone is living and all of us are living right now is all stories that we've created.
Yeah. And so here's going to be ready for the big aha moment of the day.
All
Right.
right. She's already
So,
given it away like a few minutes in. Yes.
well, it's going to give
No,
us
I love
lots. Yes.
it.
Okay. Dun, dun, let's get dun, 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 dun. We got to get one of those the noise making machines that has all the dun, dun, dun. Okay.
There's some
So
music here.
here's the thing about Once Upon a Time. They usually end.
No, that's not da da da. Sorry.
Really,
It was,
that's okay.
here's
See, we're
one
in the
more.
now moment.
Oh.
It's a little twinkle toad for me.
Yeah, it
I
was
need
just
a
called Into Space. Anyway, give us
That's
the
okay.
aha.
Okay. So every Once Upon a Time has the ending of happily ever after. So you're in your Once Upon a Time right now. Do you know what your happily ever after is? And if you're not in your happily ever after, the character in your Once Upon a Time doesn't get to that outcome. It's that simple, folks. Did you get that?
Repeat that. I did.
I,
Yeah. I
yeah.
experienced.
Okay.
No, I didn't get it. I experienced it. Just
Oh,
to
good.
get
I don't
back.
have to roll my eyes. Every time I hear somebody say, I get it, I roll my eyes like, yeah, okay. We'll,
She's
we'll,
been
we'll try
rolling
this.
her eyes a lot at me.
Repeat until you don't have to remember. Okay. So there's Once Upon a Time, and every Once Upon a Time has a happily ever after. Do you know what your happily ever after is? What is your end game? What is your done deal? And if you don't know what it is, that's really important. Your character is never going to get there. And what I would say,
Because you have no direction, right?
because when you have a story that is woe is me and all this happened and blah, 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 and you keep telling that story over, that's the energy of your happily ever after. So
Yes.
that means that character is happy in woe is me, blah, blah, blah. I never get this. This never happens to me. It always happens out there, right? So if that's why I said earlier when we started, do not tell that old story, because that doesn't have a happy ending like you want, but it does have its own happy ending, which is more of the same energy.
So how is that
I
happy though?
suck. I suck. Oh, blah blah. Then your energy, your happily ever after is experiencing how much you suck. Like that's
Right. And it's hard
how
and everything is hard. Everything
it's a
is hard.
paradox,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Because your
Yep.
words, you are the author of your story in this living imagination. And as you speak your words, and when people start working with me, they check their words very, very quickly,
Mhm.
because you're in heightened energy when we're together, more so even when you're on your own. And that's why I posted up on the page for the registration. If what you're thinking and speaking now instantly manifest it, would you want it? Because
Right.
when you speak it, when you think it, when you think you're thinking it, but you're identifying with it, you're still anchoring it in, and you can't give yourself some attention to something that you don't want repeated.
I love that. Rich says that he uses fewer words now. And I
Oh,
often I find myself starting and then just stopping because
yeah.
I will admit that I have always been one that uses words in the past haphazardly. Like I would just say always and never and just throw words around and be like, oh, you know what I mean. And I am realizing or I'm rediscovering how important those words are. And when I find myself wanting to do that, I just cut myself mid sentence. And now I feel like I've just gone off into la la land. But it's much more powerful because I feel the power of those words.
And here's a really fun fact. Like when I was taught, I'm a trained interrogator, so I had to go testify in court of the cases that I worked on. And we were taught very early on that any question, the answer is yes or no. The initial answer is yes or no. There's no, and even if you want to give information, even if you know that they're going to need more information, do not give it. Let the question be asked. Be patient. And then if you can say yes or no again, you do, or the least amount of words, be succinct. Because when you know your topic that well, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
in this happily ever after, if you went into your utopia world, and you started to reverse engineer it, at what point are you going to come down into the yuck? Because that version of you that has the outcome never had the yuck. And I know human minds think in very linear terms that there's just one life and my memories are my memories, but you only
Mm-hmm.
remember 20 to 30% of your memories anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a really rotten foundation if it wasn't the story you would be telling now, or the story of the outcome of your character. That's really powerful.
Yeah. I want to invite everybody who's watching, whether you're watching live or the replay, to
Or
write in the
dead.
comments.
You're watching live, dead, or anywhere in between. We only need a pulse.
So I would like for you to watch it to write to write in the comments to share with us if you know what your happily ever after is, and make it maybe in a sentence or maybe whatever it is that you want to share. Because what I'm hearing Denise say, and I agree with, is that if you do not know your happily ever after, then you're never going to get there. So until she started talking to me about the utopia, about my done deal, like there was some clarity for some areas, but not all areas. And now that I'm clear on what that looks like, I know when things show up, is that going to guide me towards my done deal, towards my happily ever after? And it's not, I say no to it. I also know that feelings as well. Does that feel good? Is that like my utopia, my done deal? No. So changing that. So it's all
And
very
let me
powerful.
ask you, I'm going to put you back in the hot seat. Let me ask you
Yeah.
this, because you've said no to me. Not many people do.
Oh, have I?
Yes, you have.
Oh, good for me.
Well, because, am I testing you, or and that's the thing I want to throw out. The universe is never testing you, right? The universe is never trying to trick you up, because you are your universe. What it really is trying to do when those are you sures come up is see, are you more aligned with your new reality or your old? Because if you go in and that new reality clicks and you're really still anchored in your own, you will self-sabotage. That you won't be able to stay there. It'll kick you out.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? And then it'll feel like you failed.
Oops.
So Your subconscious mind, your higher self wants to make sure that you have the character anchored in that will support the new reality. And that's why from where you are, you have to be thinking from, acting from.
Right.
And guess what? People say, well, I don't know what to do. We're making this up all the time. Right now, we're making this up. Whether you're reading a book, you're making up reading a book when you're reading a book, but you think you're reading a book.
And just to piggyback off of that, I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they were talking about they hate, like they were feeling anxiety, and they hate this feeling of the unknown and not knowing what's going to happen like next in their career. And I was sharing with them, I said, but every moment is unknown. Like I don't like, we
Yeah.
don't know sitting here what the next word is. We don't know, like, and we are under these false assumptions that we do. Right. Yes.
Well, the reason
Maybe
why
my wig will come off.
the reason why I look up is because I have a foundational assumption that says people and opportunities drop in my lap. So if I really believe that, then I'm going to be looking for people so that they don't literally physically fall in my lap.
Right.
Right?
Rosalia, back for more.
Yes. So,
Wait.
so
Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No.
No, it's a question on a different subject. Finish your thought. Finish your.
Okay.
No. You were saying something important.
That's a Leo thing. I just see Bugs Bunny going, okay.
You guys, if anyone ever thought like two Leos can actually do a show together when they both like, this is what it looks like. Just so you know. I'm like, give her space, give her her spotlight. And I'm like, okay, my turn.
And there's characters in my head going, quiet, quiet, quiet. And the other one's going, yeah, right. So that's what's going on right now.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. All right. So, and the other thing that I wanted to, and I see this in posts a lot, is the commiserating or the wanting to take you back into your old story, you know, because there's pride of surviving something, right? Yeah. And you got to understand, if you're survival mode, if there's an us and them, if there's a right and wrong, if there's an up and down, then you can't get to the next level of reality creation, which is creating for the sake of creating. Because this is an inclusive universe. There's nothing left out, right? So we're going to go in how to surrender without, because when I say to help people surrender to it, acknowledge quickly, briefly, that it is a possibility. It's just not my possibility. They think I'm saying that you want more of that, so accept it. But acceptance is a real quick thing. It's a passage through to get, it's like that ridge of the coin. You're on the side of the coin you don't want, you jump out into that little center ridge so that you can jump into what's wanted. But here's the thing that when I see it, it's just like mind-blowing to me that people think they have to suffer in order to know joy. They have to be poor in order to know rich. And we know Rich really well.
We know Rich. He just said, yes. Who just said tribe.
Leos. There you go. A Leo sandwich. Cookies, more cookies. Okay. But so I want for everyone to take a look at things that you've been posting. And if you're posting those woe is me and pat on the back, you survived, and you go and get rid of that stuff, because you're a gatekeeper to the level that you don't want to acknowledge anymore. So how I can prove to you, and then the other thing we're going to be doing in this 2-day event is that you no longer need proof. But let me ask you this. If you saw someone for the very first time touch a hot stove by accident and their reaction, what would your reaction be?
To them?
Well, to the idea of touching a hot stove.
Yeah.
For you.
You don't want to do that again. That hurt. Ouch.
Right. So you're not the one who did it. You've never done it, but you saw someone do it, and you go,
that must hurt.
That's not for me. You don't go running over and go, oh, let me see, let me try. Right? You don't do that.
Totally.
But so you haven't had the personal experience of knowing that pain, but you know that that's not for you. So you don't have to know that. You don't even have to know what to call what just happened, or even talk to the person that it happened to. And that's where, when you get into higher consciousness, that's where the hive mind serves you. Because if there's an experience that you want, and there is someone there who can energetically share that with you, you don't actually have to go and physically manifest it. So you don't have to suffer to know joy. If that is your mode, and you have to ask yourself if you're more suffering or more joy, because that's where that character is getting the joy. The joy is in the suffering. not the joy is in the joy, because if the joy was in the joy, you'd be in the joy.
Right. And these are all, again, stories, once upon a timers, things that
Yes.
we're creating. So if you have told the story again and again that you need to suffer in order to learn a lesson, which, by the way, I don't even know if you saw it, but yesterday I posted a video all about the stoves and not having to touch them 10 times and being, yeah, and learning from somebody else. And I was I was telling an old story before that in order to be able to uncover all of these aspects of me, my strength and my resilience and all of this, that I needed to struggle. And what I have come to remember is that I've always been those things. And it's just aligning with those aspects of me. So I don't have to go through, and you out there don't have to go through the struggle to understand your strength, your courage, your resilience, or any of those other things you think you need
Yeah.
to know.
When I go into the gym and I lift weights, I don't know my strength because of the weights I don't pick up or I can't pick up. I know my strength because of the weights that I can move.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I move a certain number of weights one day and I go in another day and try to move the same ones and they don't move, it just means in that moment, that's it. In that moment, I could walk away and come back 5 minutes later, or I could say, this is done for today. I'll go do something else. Right. And you start to realize there's no causality, which is huge, other than what in this moment is my story about this. And you'll see it in songs and you'll see it in TV shows. There's part of a song, I was once lost and now I'm found. No, lost people stay lost. Found people never have to find themselves because there you are.
Here
And
I am.
yeah, what I have come to remember. Yes. It's membering again. It's remembering is to become a member again. And it's a member to yourself. So let me tell you a story. Like once upon a time, and I imagine this, like there's this God training school, if you will, and there's all of us and we're up there and we're all creating our own realities. And we invite each other to come, and I think of them like video games because it's relatable. So, you'll say, come into my game and we'll play your game for a couple eons. And then Rich will have one and we'll go into his, and Robert will have one and we'll go into his, and I'll have one and you'll go into mine. And when we're doing this, we're going in because each universe has things that we haven't thought of that we can bring back into our universes. But there are certain things that we're going to leave behind in those universes because that was meant for them. So as you're doing this, when you go into someone else's universe, you have to forget who you are in order to get the whole character experience. So when we say that we're remembering who we really are, it's not the characters. It's the energy or the essence that fuels the characters, which we call subconscious, which we call higher self, right? If you think about it right now, if you believe you have a body, there's a heart beating in your body. That's not your conscious mind beating it. And thank goodness for you that your conscious characters don't have to beat your heart.
Yes.
Because
I
it'd
already
be
have enough in my
on, off, right?
Yeah.
And we can get rid of worthiness, because if you weren't worthy, then your subconscious would no longer be beating your heart.
That's
So
right.
I always say you have a heartbeat equals worthiness, knock the worthiness crap off.
Yep.
Right? Smack you upside the head.
Yep.
You're awake, you're aware, you're alive. I'm here, I'm here, I'm now, I'm awake, I'm aware. Because otherwise you're never going to get out of the worthiness trap.
Yes. And we've touched on that a few times. So if you've missed out on that conversation, make sure you tune into old episodes, because or older, or on whatever, because there is always some piece of magic in there.
Yes.
I want us to go back to, well, not go back to, we're there. Once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. Let's talk. I don't know the word talk. Let's just sit here and smile. No, let's talk about what I found interesting, and why I really wanted us to talk about storytelling, is because I remember from a young age, Denise, having this I don't know if the word is awakening, but a remembering of this story that I repetitively told over and over again. And then realizing that I had the power to choose a different story. Why am I telling this again and again? What if that's not actually the case, right? A different perspective. And once I realized that there was an entire world of perspective that I could look from, everything began to change for me and open up. And so I just wanted to talk about this idea, this concept of like choosing the same thing that doesn't feel good when there's a whole world of rewriting or whatever possibilities.
So I'll give you a real live perspective, and it
Mhm.
just made me smile. So as you know, I recently have been taking up the practice of hot yoga and Inferno Pilates because, you know, being a Leo, bring the heat, bring it, right? It's not hot enough outside. Let's go into a 105 room and do some exercise.
Burn, baby, burn.
So yesterday, as I go to the studio that I go to for Pilates, it's an hour class and it's a little less hot than the yoga. It's like 95 degrees in there at all times. And but I couldn't get a close parking spot, so I had a quite a distance walk, and it's where I'm at. It's very hot and humid. So by the time I got from the car to the door, it was very sweaty. And it was like walking into the front of the yoga studio because you could feel the air. And it was like, ah, and
Mhm.
then, of course, I go set up into the room. The room's hot. We're in there for an hour, 95 degrees. You know, it looks like you stepped out of the shower. When you're done, you're soaked. And I walked out and it felt like a spring morning.
Mm.
Now, the heat, the number on the phone didn't change. It still said it was the same temperature, but it was all about the different story and the different perspective.
Mhm.
Because when I was walking there, there's a story of it's hot outside, it's July, I can feel the body sweating, but yet it didn't change. It was the same degree on the phone. It was the same humidity. It was me that changed. So when you realize that's what being in the now moment does, because it's just a template, and it's a template to share and support the story that you have going on here until you give yourself a different experience and you go back into the template. It looks exactly the same, but it reacts with you differently. It was refreshing to go outside and walk to the car.
Hey,
Hey,
Bill.
there's Bill. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
So that's when, and that's why in the 2-day event, we're going to do experience stuff, right?
Yeah.
How can you take a step back and look at your story differently? So how did you do? Share with us. How did you do?
First time with Rosalia.
Yes, I see
Love
that.
it.
It's definitely a nice reminder. Rosalie, if you haven't signed up for tomorrow, you better get there. Right? We're going to
I,
get the sign up. Okay, so Sherry, for
yes.
you, what was
Yes.
your shift?
Into the different perspective. It was literally being, this was like 2 decades ago, about the opening up. It was for me realizing the experience of being tired of seeing myself, like I felt like I was running into a brick wall over and over and over again. Like there was a wall in front of me and I could see the vision of me pressing my foot on the gas and hitting right into it. And so for me, it was, I don't want to keep repeating this story. Like there's got to be like, I remember, I remember literally thinking, I couldn't have been put on this earth to suffer and to be the only one that's struggling. There's got to be something different for me. So first for me, it was like just opening up to the possibility that there was something else for me. And then I just started like reading books and of eye opening. And I was like, oh, I don't have to tell this story. And so I just started not only telling a story, I'm just going to share this because this was the life altering moment for me, I would say, where it wasn't just telling the story, like you said, in concept, but it was the experiencing of it. So it was like one late night, I was with my friend and we had been partying a little bit and I was just woe is meing and talking about this unhealthy relationships again and again with men. And so he just looked at me and he said, Sherry, what kind of woman do you see yourself as? And it was the first time that someone made me think about what that would look like. And so I just rattled off. I was like, you know, I'm self-respecting, I'm confident, I'm all these things. And he just looked at me and he said, so be her. And at the time I was an actress and I didn't know what those things were, but I didn't have to I knew them conceptually. So I remember leaving there. And that next day I was in this toxic relationship. And when he texted me, the guy, I said to myself, what would that woman do in this moment right now? And I said I wouldn't return his text. And I didn't. And it turned into that again and again. What would that woman do? And before I knew it, I actually started feeling better inside. So then when those negative things came in, that felt like toxic and poison to me. And so I
Yeah.
lessened that and I increased what felt good and what felt like that woman. So that was me telling, and then the story, that was me
And
telling.
that's really the difference between thinking of and thinking from, because it's happening real time, and
Yes.
that's the power of that now moment. Now, let me ask you this. After you made that choice of the first one not to return that text, did you
Uh-huh.
still have a little wobble back and
Yes.
forth? Yeah,
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
normal. That's
Yeah.
very, very normal
Yeah.
because you spent so much time being the old character.
So important for everybody to hear that because it's not that, I mean, it could be that instant.
Could be, sometimes
Yes.
it is. Like,
Yeah.
that'll do that for you, even though it's an
But then it
illusion.
was like the contrast. That's why I was saying, like,
Yeah,
where when that negative and I would let that in or take or not follow that, who that woman was and make choices that were opposite of it, that was like more refining because I was like, ooh, that does not feel good. I know what this other feels like to be that person that I see myself as. And
yes.
so, yeah, it went back and forth. And it still does, on days, well, I actually take that back because there's never a wrong decision.
And the thing that I would say, you wanna make the big, because remember, the outer world is you pushed out. You can't look at the effect and expect it to change. It would be like looking in a mirror saying, "Why does that reflection look that way?" Change reflection. It's not gonna
Mm,
change, right? So you have to change, and I know it sounds very cliche, but this is where we're gonna go into the experience of being not of it, speaking of it, but living from it, right?
mhm.
So when you just make a simple decision to not talk down to yourself, and let me give some perspective. So
Yeah.
you make the decision on Monday, and would you agree that you have an energetic foundational assumption that says, I am always doing the best that I can from where I'm at?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
And it's only in hindsight that we can look at an experience and say, I should have done this, I could have done this, blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
that version, the character that showed up and the character that's going, I should have done this, I could have done this, are two different characters. And that's what you have
Mhm.
to start identifying. But the other thing is that the only way that you can look at what you've done and see it from a different perspective is to be above it. Because if you're below it, you're not going to understand it.
Mhm.
Right. So you have proven to yourself that you are officially higher than the consciousness of the choice.
Right.
Right. So you activate it in that moment, then you're aligning. Do I want to make that decision again? I'm going to be very aware if that decision ever comes up again. Right. And sometimes you get it the first time and sometimes you don't. And that's where eliminating the negative self talk, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have
Yes.
tons of characters that are cheerleaders, bring them in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not like that was the shift for me was the way
Yeah.
that yeah, I mean, I think that's for everybody. Is
Self
speaking these.
concept. It's self concept.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're going into your done deal, you have to leave the self concept of you right here and adopt his or her self concept of the individual that is there, because they do not see the world and they may have never been at your level. So if you go in and do an interview with that version of yourself and you say, "Hey, how did you get there? That's where I want to be." They may not be able to identify with where you are because they were never there. That's
Right.
even better than them being there, because that means it's going to happen quicker, because they're not going to tolerate any of the BS that you're supporting of why you're here.
Yes. Hello, Miriam on Facebook.
Awesome.
Dr. Z,
Won-
she's awesome. I'm not
Wonderful.
Facebook, LinkedIn. Sorry, LinkedIn. Robert, oh, I didn't even read it before I posted it. Okay, well, just happened
There
to be
you go.
cheering me on.
Well, yes, hello. And and you should never, there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance.
Yeah.
Arrogance is you think you're arrogant, or you're being called arrogant by another person who is a lower level and offering you an invitation to de-pedestal you for
Hmm.
whatever their reasons are, right? Confidence is knowing who you are and not caring what lower level versions of people think, because when people are on the same level as you or they are a little bit above, they will never ever put you down, never ever point a finger at you.
We've got a comment from Bill. I heard that, by the way. Bill says, My aha moment came after 2 abusive women that I tried to save and being lined up with a date with a third. I drove home and looked up to the sky and said, no, I'm done with this. 3 years later, I found my sweetheart.
Yes. Now you got to remember that when you're playing a role, if you're playing a savior, remember what happens to saviors. They get crucified. Saviors, yeah, right? But also the mind of a savior is thinking that the person can't do it themselves. So you got to understand there's a lot going on. And that's why in knowing the character that you are right now, what are your good qualities that you're going to take regardless of what character you are, those qualities that you love about yourself, you don't have to let them go in order to assume the identity and live from the new character. But there are going to be things that you do that the other character doesn't do. And you got to let them go because you can't get there if you're still doing this.
So let's relate character, because some people may not have, when you're saying character, you're talking about being the star of your own book, of your story, of the character of the Once Upon a Time.
You have multiple personalities within you, right? And I know in some levels of reality, multiple personalities are not necessarily the thing that you go after, but that's not what I'm talking about in that aspect. Because think about it. You're a partner, you're a TV show host, you're a friend, you all already have these multiple personalities. And I was thinking about this yesterday of how we can describe this. So if you've ever, let's say you have a partner, you might have children, you might have pets, you have all these roles going, and you leave your house and you walk into your office. When you walk into your office, and let's say you're a parent, you're no longer mom and dad because those characters are not needed at that time. So you put those characters dormant. It's not to say that some of the skills that you learn there can't be used in the office, especially if you have office mates that might be acting like 3-year-olds. But I digress. We're just going, right? We're just going for the sake of being there for business. And if you get a phone call from one of the kids while you're at work, you can temporarily turn on the mom or dad character. But the second the phone is down, you're back into that version. And just like when you come back home, you walk through the door, you leave the business part of you because now you're mom and dad and partner again. And even if you share with your partner what it is that went on that day, you're not in that business mode. And what I've seen happen is because before in other realities, there was such delineation of when this began and when this stopped. But now that people are working from home, all the areas have gotten gray. So this is where you need to redefine which role at what time, and you go in between them like that. So now when you're going into the role of a character that you've never played before, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel, and this is where people say, I feel like an imposter. No, only authentic people get that feeling because imposters know they're imposters and they're playing that role. Imposters never have imposter syndrome. And that's where the paradox is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to feel like you put on shoes 3 sizes too big, that you're a little kid walking around in grown-up shoes.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the fun part of this.
That's how it felt when I stepped into that character of the woman. I didn't know self-confidence or respect yet. It felt like bigger than me, but it also felt like this is who I want to be. And it was fun and it was exciting. So we got a lot of comments coming in here.
Okay. So one second to the comments. Yeah, and I'll ask you this, and I'll ask people, have you ever run a race or walked a race, say a 5K?
Yeah.
Okay. And did they not tell you where the starting line was?
Yes.
Which is the jump off point.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you go up to the organizer and say, you know what? I'm not going to start there. Put me in about 10 feet from the finish line because all I want to do is get to the end. Right?
No, but that's really funny.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
And you can do that in manifesting. And there's some things that I absolutely would say, go for it. But for the most part of it, the manifestation isn't just because the crossing of the finish line is a split second. The whole part of it is enjoying. Now, if it's 10 steps and you want to take it down to 5, that's wonderful. But don't be so much in a rush to cross the finish line, because during that journey, more manifestations start to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to
No, and I also want to still invite people to share your happily ever after, because as we're talking about writing our stories, the once upon a time, you cannot write them until you know your happily ever after. So be sure to share that with us. So Raphael says, traveling from the imagined future or done deal to what we are going to do here and now with intention and conviction.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a question or a statement.
So what I would say, if I understand what he's asking or stating,
Mm-hmm.
just imagine this. You have a bow and arrow. And on this bow and arrow, you have this etheric energy cord that you tie around your waist. And you're going to shoot this arrow and it's going to hit your done deal. And the second that it hits the done deal bullseye, then that target is going to energize that rope that's around you. And it's going to invoke a feel in your body from where you are. So once you feel that feel, don't let it dissipate, because the more you can hold the feel, then you are where you are, acting from, thinking from, existing from, and you don't have to think, because the only thing you have to do is pull yourself along your rope. And as you do, you pay attention to what's in front of you on the side. Do I want this choice? Do I want this choice? And there's less thinking involved. You let the feel go, and then you have to reshoot the arrow. Everything's in the feel, because how it feels when you cross the finish line, if you can generate that now, you pull it to you instead of you going to it, and there's less action involved. Now, there's two ways of doing things. Shoot the arrow, do all the action, you move towards it, because there's never any movement because everything's right here, right now. Or you can sit here and feel the feel and watch as it seeks you out. It comes to you. You are the master. There's no wrong way, and you can do a combination of both. But if you decide to do the action, do not be upset that it's taking longer than the other way because you lost the feel. You have this beautiful honing device right here, which is your physical body. And the better you treat it, the cleaner it is, the quicker you pick up on subtler energies. And that's how it's all mind, body, spirit is connected.
Powerful. Our Facebook user, which I'm not sure who you are, explanation makes so much sense. Yes. Bill says, from before, so true. I'm not a savior. I don't want to be crucified. I'm a partner for another person on this journey of life.
Awesome. Right. He redefined himself. He's a partner, and he will act differently as a partner.
Anybody else want to redefine, recreate, rewrite your story right here? Claim it with us. I don't know why I'm pounding on my desk.
And if you want more of what we're doing here, but we're going to be doing it on Zoom, so we actually get to interact more with you.
Yes.
Shari is going to post that link up. Mm-hmm. If you go to any of our pages, and feel free, if you're not a friend of mine on Facebook, feel free to send me a request, because I'm closing down registration tonight at the end of the business day, because I don't do registrations the day of, because there's just no way behind the scenes to get everything where you need to be. So if you want to be joining us, registration will close tonight. And
yeah, y'all want to be in there. I'm just saying, like, it's great to talk about this right now, but until you actually
go into experiences.
Yeah. I mean,
so Shari, I brought you to some experiences via Zoom. What was that like for you?
It was experiential. I'm done being on the hot seat. No, it was.
You're never done in the hot seat.
No, because I'm still in the fields of choosing I'm really working actively and not working. I'm choosing actively to choose the right words. So,
we'll let you have words. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I love words.
Extra points for me. Extra points.
Well, in the meantime, Robert says, can't wait till tomorrow.
Well, because you tried to change the subject.
Yep, totally. Rich says, super excited for the quantum revelation thingy. Miriam, you have to sign up. She wrote awesome about this. No, so for me, it felt like being in it, I finally understood. I mean, truly, like, I understood a lot of the things that we talk about, because I am somebody who likes to, or who used to like to overthink and overanalyze. And I know, really? Me? Because I just wanted to make sense of it all. But I've spent years trying to make sense of it all and not living in it. So a lot of the work that we did together, including way before just you and I with the Sprite, and, you know, just the experiencing of that, it anchors you in. Like you said, like, I feel like, I'm going to say this for other people, not for you, Denise. So get ready to not roll your eyes. I feel like, oh, I get this. Now, the truth is that the reason why I think that I get it is because I've already experienced it. I've just forgotten that I
Yeah.
have.
And when you and when you think about this, that when you actually experience something, you never say, "I get it" again.
That
So
was
if you're
okay.
saying I get it, you're not there. Just
Yeah,
know that's an egoic character that wants you to give you a false sense of security. Because
and you
what
said
whoever
something the other day.
if the character narrates, it's not experiencing. The part of you that experienced never narrates.
And the part, yeah. So if I was busy saying I get it, then I was never that person that gotten it because I have
Because you're
already
saying
like
I get it.
surpassed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
And I don't want to say, I don't want to speak for people out there. So I've decided not to, as I just said that out
you've given up
loud.
ventriloquism no longer, right? You've given up the
No
ventriloquism
longer.
no
No
longer.
longer. So
Okay.
before we're coming to a close, just curious if anybody has any questions about this and any last things, because I know everybody here is going to go to your event because it just doesn't make sense not to. Uh,
Well,
and plus I'll
we
be
don't wanna
there.
make any sense whatsoever, right? We are totally senseless.
Yeah, but is there anything else like that we should touch on as far as, or people have questions like relating to rewriting your story? Because I hear things in my head that someone might be thinking, well, how do you recreate or rewrite a story when your physical evidence says tells
Uh,
you one thing?
we're really gonna go into that big, in the 2
Okay.
days. It's
Yep.
not something we can
I
address
figured.
really, but think of it this way. So you're in St. Louis, and you wanna go visit Sherry out in California. And so then you start heading to Philadelphia. Why would you do that? That would make no sense to go back to Philadelphia if
Right.
you're already, like, halfway in St. Louis. It's really like that. You start from where you are. Whatever happened previous doesn't matter anymore, just like in your car, right? If you make a wrong
Mhm.
turn, you'll get rerouted with your GPS. It's time to listen to the internal GPS because the old way of doing things, every level of reality, even the best ones, have gatekeepers, and gatekeepers are meant to keep what's on that level of reality flowing. And when you go to do something new that doesn't exist on that level, they're going to be going, do you really want to do that? Or that's not how we do it here. So you have to identify in your old head the moment that you're about to choose something. The very first thing, as we did with Rich last week, the very first thing is a gatekeeper in your head. If it's not a yes or it's not a no, because when something's a solid no, you don't need an explanation as to why. And when something's
Yeah.
a yes, you don't need an explanation. What you got?
What I
What
have is that I want
what
to
is
say, what
real?
is
It looks like
real
what is real?
anyway?
What
No,
is
what
real?
is real anyway? Because we try to convince ourselves of what real is. But if you have two people, you and I are in a situation, you and I, like together, experiencing something, we're going to have two completely different perspectives and stories of what that experience was. So for
Yes.
the people who might be thinking, well, I don't want to like lie to myself or I don't want to tell a different story, I'm like, well, Denise wouldn't be lying to herself about what she experienced there. I wouldn't be lying to myself. So the
And
possibilities.
think
That's how I feel is the
and
possibilities.
to piggyback off of that, have you ever rode a roller coaster?
Yeah.
Okay, have you ridden a wooden one?
Yes.
And one of those big metal ones?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm a roller
so
coaster fanatic, so
right.
yeah.
So just imagine you came off of one of those monster metal ones and you're coming out and you're like, and someone comes over to you. Actually, 3 different people come over to you and say, "What was it like?" Someone who's never ridden one, someone who's only ridden metal wooden roller coasters, and someone who's only ridden other metal ones like that one, but not that one, right? Can you truly explain what it is that you just experienced? And the roller coaster riders can only understand what you're saying from their previous experience, and the one who's never ridden one really has nothing to go off of. But can you ever describe really what your experience? And the answer is no. And that is why it's so important to believe nothing we say here. It's all concept. It's
Yeah.
all concept until you have the experience. Because I'm going to leave this one thing for you. And when you figure it out, you can reach out to me. Today's Wednesday. Prove it. You can't use a calendar because that's also a concept. You can't use a concept to prove a concept. So you can't use a calendar and you can't use other people. because that's hearsay. It's inadmissible. How would you prove that it's Wednesday? And if you didn't know it was Wednesday, would you know it was Wednesday?
No, I barely keep up now without a certain schedule. I know. So no.
Right? So, and
Yeah.
then that's because you're so deep in the story, you don't realize these things until you start to question everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to play with it and rewrite it how you want it to be, not how it's the gatekeepers say it's supposed to be. And I love gatekeepers. They're wonderful characters. They really are.
Yeah. I just met one the other day
Yeah.
that told me how it's supposed to be.
On
And
that
Denise,
level, and they were absolutely right, because gatekeepers know their level and they know it well. They know
yeah.
it well. Yep. And they don't
And
want you
that's for
rocking
their
the boat.
time. That's for their reality.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can create whichever one. I can write my story. I have my own happily ever after.
Exactly. And that's when you realize this isn't my reality. This isn't my level anymore. But
Yeah.
because you can start to define it, it exists, because if it didn't exist, either your definition of it would immediately create it, or it already does and you're just remembering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's really
powerful.
cool.
So
Yes.
while we got some tickers going across, we got one question out there, which if somebody for 2-day event, if they have to miss an hour tomorrow, some of that time, is that okay? Will it be recorded? Let us
Okay.
know.
So I do not record them because it allows the people who are there to be more open, honest, and raw. It is always best to be able to be to all of them. However, you will always be to the ones that really are the ones that you are the most aligned with. And you will figure it. That's part of the journey. If you missed something in the other one and it was really important, you'll figure it out. That's where you learn to trust yourself. So yes, you can come if you're not going to make all of them. And remember, at the fourth one on each day is just a Q&A session. It's not required. None of them are required to be there. But if there are questions you have from earlier that day that we did not address during those sessions, that would be the time, that fourth session, to come and get those answered. So there'll be
So
no new
excited, Denise.
things. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So thrilled.
Yeah.
I know you're bouncing out of your seat about this. Y'all,
Yes.
I keep saying y'all, like I'm from this today's storyline, I'm from the South.
Okay.
So y'all come there tomorrow now, you hear?
Yes.
Suddenly my
And again,
10-year-old.
remember, I'm closing registration today at the end of business. So that would be
Yes.
business in California. All right.
So what we want to encourage
this was our happily ever after today. We had a blast. Would you agree? Did you get your money's worth?
Yes.
Did you have fun? Yes.
Yes.
Do you feel satisfied?
Satisfied.
Do you feel
Overly.
satisfied? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
Do you out there?
Yes.
Do you out there?
And for everyone, I love going after this is all done, going in and looking at all of the comments and liking and loving and responding back. So yeah. And I look forward to getting to know everybody so much more better. There go the words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got some right now.
Thank
you. Thank you for creating this for us, just this space. Thank you all who are watching right now for being part of this energy, this experience with us, because of course, without you, like it would just be Denise and I bouncing off walls.
So. And next week, don't forget, it's Shari's birthday on Wednesday. So
I
there's
totally paid her to say that.
Celebration. Big celebration. Can't wait.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Guys.
Look at that. Look at that. Oh, I love it. Thank
Me
you
too.
guys.
All right, Rosalia. Yes.
Whatever.
Awesome. We'll see you all next week. Actually, we'll see you tomorrow and Friday.
And Friday.
And Friday. Thanks for nothing.
Thanks for nothing. Appreciate it.